We've got a lot to cover today. News, interviews, Taylor's new album. It's all coming up on First Stop News. Hey everybody, happy Friday. I'm Larry and I'm the host of First Stop News, and today we're covering everything, and I mean everything in the whole wide world, because Earth Day is right around the corner. And you may have plans to take action at school or at home to help protect our planet. We're going to tell you how Earth Day came to be, but first, we got to get to the question of the day. Did you know Earth Day's official organizers set a theme each year? So our question of the day is, what's the theme of this year's Earth Day? Think you know? Gotta guess? Stick around, you're gonna find out. Our first story is about violence in the Middle East, so feel free to grab someone older to watch with you. On April 13th, Iran launched a major missile attack against Israel. Israel, with the help from the US military and others like Britain, France, and Jordan, were able to intercept and shoot down almost all of the drones and missiles before they hit any of the intended targets. A young girl was seriously injured, but there was no other major damage and no deaths were reported. Iran said the action was retaliation for a suspected Israeli attack on one of their embassies that killed senior military commanders. It's the first time Iran has ever launched an attack on Israel from within its own territory. The US and other members of the G7 pledged their support to Israel, but asked the country not to strike back, concerned it would cause a larger war within the Middle East. But Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel will, quote, make its own decisions on how to respond. And early Friday morning, it's believed Israel conducted a counterstrike against Iran. Israel has not publicly confirmed the strike. Explosions were heard near an army base, and Iran said the drones were shot down. No major damage has been reported as of now, and there are no indication that more action will be taken by either side. We'll keep watching this to see how this all plays out. Shohei Ohtani is used to making headlines, like being one of the only players who both pitches and bats. Or like last December when he signed a 10-year, record-breaking $700 million contract with the Dodgers. He's been in the news recently for another headline away from the plate. His longtime interpreter was charged with bank fraud.
Mr. Mitsuhara stole over $16 million from Mr. Ohtani's account in order to pay for these illegal sports bets.
Prosecutors say Ippei Mitsuhara transferred money from Ohtani's bank account without Ohtani knowing to pay his gambling debts. The theft was discovered through a federal investigation. Mitsuhara confessed to Ohtani and the rest of the Dodgers locker room after they won their season opener in Seoul, South Korea. Mitsuhara has been fired from the Dodgers, and the MLB will wait for further action until the federal investigation is complete. Ohtani said he didn't know this was happening and was not involved. Federal prosecutors have said there's no evidence suggesting otherwise. A gambling scandal has also hit the NBA. Toronto Raptors forward Jontay Porter was just banned from the league for life. Why? It started on March 20th, when an online betting app alerted the league to a suspicious $80,000 bet. This was also the day Porter was benched for feeling ill. This launched an investigation that the NBA alleges Porter was gambling on games and giving away confidential health information to known bettors.
I never doubt injuries. I never doubt, honesty from players. Obviously, I never had a situation like this before.
Nearly every sports league has strict rules that ban players from gambling and making bets in order to maintain the integrity of the sport. Porter is the first player in the league banned for betting since 1954. The Environmental Protection Agency, known as the EPA, for the first time ever, put a national limit on the level of forever chemicals that can be in drinking water. This is a big deal. But why and what are forever chemicals? Forever chemicals, sometimes called PFAS, are a type of chemical that can be found in everything from non-stick pans to paint to the foam firefighters use to put out flames. Over the past few decades, higher levels of these chemicals have been found in drinking water and linked to some pretty big health issues. They also stick around in the environment for a long time, which is where the name forever comes from. This new rule is great because it puts a limit on the amount allowed in water and could reduce exposure for 100 million people. Water treatment plants across the US now have 5 years to buy, install, and test new technology that'll filter out these chemicals if they're higher than the limit. So this rule could help lower the rates of illness in the US and help the Earth. The WNBA draft took place earlier this week, and no surprises who came out on top.
The Indiana Fever select
Iowa's Caitlin Clark burst onto the professional scene in style, going number 1, as expected, to the Indiana Fever. The draft was held in front of fans for the first time since 2016, and probably riding high after the best year of women's college basketball ever. The 1,000 tickets available sold out in 15 minutes. But if you couldn't make it, we got you covered. The LA Sparks took Stanford's Cameron Brink 2nd, and Tennessee's Rickea Jackson 4th overall. Chicago went all out, drafting South Carolina and current national champ and MVP Camila Cardoso 3rd, and former national champ LSU's Angel Reese 7th. The Dallas Wings also got 2 top teners. There's been a lot of talk about the mega difference in salary between the WNBA and NBA players. We know Caitlin Clark's first-year salary is just $76,000 compared to the #1 draft pick for the NBA last year, which was $10 million. This is in part because the men's league is more popular than the women's league, and it brings in way more revenue. But the WNBA, which has only been around since 1997, is in a position to break through and change the conversation. Check these out. These photos are out of Greece, where the Olympic torch is officially lit for the summer's Paris Games. This ceremony has been a tradition since 1936, taking place in ancient Olympia, Greece, the birthplace of the Olympic Games. Fire was a sacred element to the ancient Greeks, and the flame is a symbol of peace, friendship, hope, and unity. It was lit by an actress playing the part of a Greek priestess at the ruins of the Temple of Hera. Next, it goes through relays in both Greece and France, and finally, the Olympic flame will light up in Paris at the opening ceremony for the Games on July 26th. So that means it's only less than 100 days away till the Olympics. Who are you rooting for? Do you have anything sitting around your house that you no longer use? Someone out there might enjoy giving it a second life. That's what Charlie Jeffers, a 17-year-old from California, was thinking when he created Pass the Bricks. It's a nonprofit that takes donated Lego and ships them to kids worldwide. He turned his love of Lego into a whole lot of good.
My room literally does not have room for anymore. Now, I've always loved Lego since I was probably 4 or 5, and now it's a lot of kind of different ones. Some of those flower sets, like the orchid, are really cool. The jazz band, the ones that are like paintings, like that they turn into Lego, those ones are so cool. Pass the Bricks is a nonprofit that basically takes used Legos and turns them into new sets for kids who don't have access to tools like Legos. During the pandemic, I was building some, and then I realized I have a lot of privilege being where I am, and there's some people who just unfortunately don't have access to the same things that I do, and I just wanted to kind of do something to address that. So our process is simple. We just kind of take the bricks, wash them down with a hose. Then, once we just have a bunch of bricks, we just package that up and send it off to wherever needs them. Like for me in the Bay Area, it's a lot of like nonprofits, kind of Boys and Girls Club places that we work with. We have over 100 ambassadors in over 100 cities. Some ambassadors in other areas do it differently through schools or church groups, or just sending them out. Typically we send out about 20 to 40 pieces in each set. Sometimes we do send out larger kind of 100-ish piece sets, but really depends. We've probably delivered about 7,000 pounds of Legos and probably 4,000 sets so far. It's just been super cool seeing the reaction from people sending us emails, or kids receiving sets, where everyone just seems super happy and excited, and I love that and want to keep that going. The more kids that we can reach, the better. That's, I think, ultimately the goal. It's just such a amazing creative outlet. Being able to actually build in your hands something whatever you want it to be, I think that is kind of the best thing.
It's so cool to see how so much Lego can reach so many kids. We should mention we reached out to Lego to hear what they think about Charlie's great work, and we've not heard back. But as a pretty big fan of building Lego, I gotta say that's cool. Okay, Monday, April 22nd is Earth Day, but how did Earth Day come to be? Back in 1970, a senator from Wisconsin, Gaylord Nelson, witnessed an oil spill in Santa Barbara, California that got him fired up. He teamed up with another senator and a student activist, Dennis Hayes, to energize college students to protest about the environment. The date, April 22nd, was chosen because it fell between spring break and final exams, and Hayes knew students would be around. 20 million Americans across the country worked together that day to bring attention to the planet. It was so powerful that by the end of 1970, the EPA was formed and environmental laws began to pop up. By 1990, Earth Day became a global initiative, and today over 190 countries participate in honoring the day. Each year there is a theme, which brings us back to our question of the day. Do you know the theme of this year's Earth Day? The answer, plastics versus planets. I got it. Do you know the theme of this year's Earth Day? The answer, planet versus plastics, with the goal of reducing plastic consumption 60% by 2040. One thing I like to do to help out the planet is use reusable bottles. It's small, but it helps. Giant trolls have taken over the Pacific Northwest. That's this area over here. Well, not these trolls, but these trolls. They're sculptures. Trolls are a big part of Scandinavian folklore, and for more than 10 years, a Danish artist named Thomas Dambo has been bringing them to life in art. He's dropped his creations all over the world with 6 recent ones in the United States. And as you can see here, you can't miss them. They're all between 12 and 20 feet tall and have been placed in natural spaces like forests and on beaches. But the coolest part? They're made from wood and other recyclable materials. The artist wants people to know that trash can have value, and recycling materials into artwork is just one way to help take care of the earth. The trolls even have their own stories and names that honor indigenous traditions. There's Pia the Peacekeeper. This guy's Jacob Two Trees. This one's my boy, that's Frankie Feet Splinters. I love Frankie. If you want to see them in person, you have time. They're going to stay scattered around the Pacific Northwest in cities like Portland and Washington until at least 2026. And we're closing today's show with the start of a new era and a shout out for all the Swifties out there listening to the Tortured Poets Department, whether you're on your 4th or your 400th playthrough. And for those of you who aren't aware, that's this album, Swift's 11th, it dropped today. And don't forget, she announced a new music video tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. So we want to know, what do you think of the album? What's your favorite track? What's your favorite Easter egg? Send us an email at hi@firststopnews.com with your parents' permission to let us know what you think. Thanks for watching, everybody. And before you go, if you could leave us a like or a subscribe, that would really help us out. Have a great weekend, and we will see you again next Friday. Bye.